Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. This has been teased for a while, so we are going to do this. Probably about a month ago. I think it was a month ago. Might have been a little bit before a month ago. Kringle came out with a range of reserve candles that were not gourmand. That were botanical, and specifically they were kind of green or herbal botanical, which was really great. It's been a while since they've done, frankly, something other than gourmand, and I had to buy several of them because first of all, I wanted to vote with my feet a little bit, vote with my dollars, and really positively encourage Kringle to be doing some other things, and particularly some things that, frankly, I know are well within their wheelhouse and well within the range of things that traditionally, at least, they have done well, which is complex conceptuals. And these were all conceptuals. I only bought 3 of the 5 in the collection. So the 3 that I bought are Butterfly, this really stunning one right here. And then I also bought Green Leaf, which is this one right here. And I also bought Graceful Fern, which is this one right here. There were 2 others in the collection. One was Mint. I think it was just called Mint. And then the other one was lavender. And I'm most interested in lavender. I would have liked, in retrospect, in hindsight, to have picked up lavender because I did hear some really nice things about it being not just a linear lavender, but actually being a fairly complex and dark, deep kind of musky conceptual. So I actually would really like to kind of smell that one. But there are still a few reserve candles that are, I think, at least I see them on the website a little bit, from last year in the fall that I would probably pick up before that one. So I think Gilded Leaves is still on the website and available. So is Pumpkin Santal, and the maple one, the red maple one, I think, was one that I wanted to try too. So I would probably try either all of those or a few of those before I got the lavender one, but I wanted to say that I was interested in the lavender. The mint one has a great deal of mint and eucalyptus in it, and at least on paper that looks like not a candle I would love too much. I don't do mint or eucalyptus a whole lot, so those 2 would probably be a little bit of a tough sell. Besides, as I mentioned before, I just got done with The Perfect Winter from Bath & Body Works, which was a beautiful and gorgeous mint and eucalyptus, and I just am skeptical as to another candle being able to best, a candle company being able to best that candle, at least right now. So I will probably not be getting mint. So these are the 3 that I got. I am going to reserve Green Leaf for another video, which I will record right after this one. So I'll drop 2 videos, and the reason why is, spoiler alert, because I think it's far and away the best of the 3, and I actually have intentions to nominate it as a best new candle. So I'm gonna give it its own little video for reference, and we're gonna talk about these 2 that frankly did not do quite as well, but I want to talk about them in their own video before then. So for this video, let's talk about Butterfly and let's talk about Graceful Fern. So we'll talk about Butterfly first. They gave fancy blurbs for all of them, as well as scent notes. So here's the blurb on Butterfly. The blurb is, "Embrace the butterfly," which is kind of weird, "where cool sea spray meets subtle citrus splashes, surrounded by the soothing the soothing aura of aquatic florals, lush seagrass, and hints of ocean driftwood and warm amber sands, evoking the tranquil beauty of a seaside garden." That's the blurb. And then the top notes are cool sea spray, sunlit citrus, mid-notes blue lotus, lush seagrass, beach lily, base notes warm amber sands, and ocean driftwood. So given the blurb and given all of those notes, and if you were playing a drinking game, the drinking game would be take a shot whenever something is alluded to having to do with the water, the sea, or the ocean. That would be the drinking game for this one. This is at least on paper and in the blurb, is a very obviously aquatic candle and a primarily cool one, although they do mention warming amber sands. Yeah. But I think when I hauled it, I did say that that's a genre and it does work. You do have the push and the pull of the aquatic cool, and in this case, a strong herbal as well, which also leans cool. So you've got cool kind of clashing there with warm with the amber. But it is a vibe and it is a point of view. And if you think about the ocean sands and the literal conjunction of water and sands, you can kind of get a sense for that vibe, which is one that is both cool and warm at the same time. So it's a thing. Although it has a little bit of a push and pull, it can be executed in a way in which it's actually really pleasing, if not brilliant. But the initial thought for me is that it's a little bit mismarketed. I don't know why they're calling it butterfly. The only allusion, there is an allusion right at the end of the blurb to the tranquil beauty of a seaside garden. And where there's garden, there's butterflies, right? So that's like the only little allusion to something that might be butterfly-like. And in that sense, probably it would be a better candle if it was called like seahorse rather than butterfly, or frankly, anything else. So lovely as this is, especially up against the black, I don't know that it's properly named. And butterflies to me are a little bit like unicorns in that if I see a butterfly motif on something, I immediately assume that it's going to be like uber sweet. We're going into some sort of like glitter and fairy realm, possibly, where everything's going to be ethereal and cotton candy like, etc. Butterflies, flowers, unicorns, sprinkles. And in that sense, even more mismarketed because this candle is not overly sweet, and in fact it's a little bit off-putting in how herbal and sharp and almost masculine leaning it is, which is why it's a very austere butterfly, if you know what I mean. This is a butterfly that is not messing around and is not giving you life in the way that a unicorn would. Yeah, I said initially that I thought of the three of these, this was the most acquired taste, and I'm going to stand by that. I am an herbal lover for sure, and I also like masculine leaning, less sweet candles, and even I'm not entirely sure that I love this fragrance. It is unique, and it's something I haven't smelled, and in that sense, I really appreciate it, and I feel as though this is much more of what I would like to see from Kringle, full stop, because I do think that they do these unique, complex conceptuals so well. And frankly, if I want something generic and I want something linear, I know that I can go to other candle companies for that at a fraction of the price. I don't want to be paying top dollar and getting these candles shipped to me from Massachusetts for a generic candle. I do, however, want to be surprised by something, even if I'm not being pleasantly surprised. Even so, that's what I love about Kringle. I just do. Give me something that I haven't smelled. Give me something that has a lot of thought, that has a lot of originality, that has layers, that has depth, that has, frankly, oddities. That's what I love. Yeah? And I think, like I said, traditionally, Kringle has done that very, very well. Obviously, some are misses and some are just too avant-garde, but Kringle has, at least historically, has tended to miss on the more ambitious side. The last year, year and a half, 2 years has been oddly generic, where they are really missing much more mediocre or phoned in side of things. a la Bath and Body Works. I don't think it's a good look, but I'm not going to rehash that whole conversation. This is very old school Kringle. And that, gosh, it's austere, it's funky, it's weird. I'm not going to lie to you. So the initial smell is extremely herbal and aquatic. So the herbal, I'm assuming, is coming from, it says seagrass. But to be honest, it could almost be kind of like a, it's almost some other kind of herb. It could even be like a lavender or something. I mean, it's just a very piercing kind of note. Blue lotus, seagrass, beach lily. I'm not getting a ton of floral in this, although there is a soft, sweet, botanical aspect underneath that really biting kind of aquatic, masculine herbal thing. Yeah, I think it's aquatic with the sea spray, and there's some mineral qualities there. And then with the blue lotus, which could be like a floral that kind of leans a little bit aquatic, the lush seagrass, which I think is kind of funky, and it's giving you that like almost like seaweed kind of smell to it. I think when I hauled it, I was like, actually this might be a, when they came out with the coral candle recently, like this might have been a good coral candle. Ugh, it smells real oceanic like that, you know? I don't think that coral necessarily has a smell, but if it does, like I could imagine it smelling like this, right? And then it has like a really deep muskiness as well, which I think is probably the ocean driftwood. I'm not getting a ton of like true wood notes in it, so there's not a whole lot of woodiness. There's a lot of like deep, dark, musky kind of elements to it that are playing really nicely with those like mineral, briny ocean elements as well. In terms of warmth, yes, I think there's amber in here, and the amber is adding a perfuminess to it. So all three of these, but particularly this one and the Graceful Fern, I would say are actually perfume-conceptuals. And so the amber is definitely contributing like a very like fragrance kind of note to it. I don't know that there's a whole lot of warmth in this candle. There is much more warmth in the Graceful Fern that I'm just going to talk about in a second. Yeah, I think it's dominated by the cool notes and by the herbal. It's just very acquired taste. I'm not going to lie to you. It really is. It's intriguing. I don't know that I ever really fell in love with it. The biggest problem with this candle is this. So it's not quite at the halfway point. I noticed very early on that it was not burning correctly. Here's a video actually of what the candle looked like after I had been burning it for about 4 or 5 hours. As you can tell, it has not completely pulled out in 4 or 5 hours. And those wicks are very, very low. I noticed that the wax, when I was burning it, was very like dirty and weirdly colored. It was very like yellow in a way that seemed odd to me. Sometimes you can get that discoloration late in a candle, but with this particular candle, like right off the top, it was not the right color. There was something very obviously wrong with it. Now, I did email customer service about it because I noticed that somebody else in the Facebook group had exactly the same like experience with this butterfly one and had a picture of it, puny wicks, and one wick just went out and like couldn't be relit. And when I saw that, I thought, you know, they probably need the feedback. And I made it very clear in the email, like, I don't want another one of these for a whole host of reasons. But I thought you should maybe be aware of like what this one is doing. I really think it has performance issues. And then I kind of had radio silence from them for 2 weeks. And which is fine. I mean, like I did say I didn't really want like another candle, but it would have been nice to have heard back a little something and been like, hey, we're sorry about that. To be honest, I kind of wanted my money back, but I didn't. I didn't really just want to like ask that point blank. Although if I had, I probably would have gotten it back. So then after that initial like few burns, it seemed to like have righted itself a little bit. And I had about 2 or 3 burns that went okay. And then I reached this point and it got severe puny wicks and it extinguished on one wick, and the one wick I just couldn't get it to light up again. And at that point I had kind of had it with the candle. Also, the strength and throw on this one is so bad. So even when it was burning like fairly well, I had it, I'm gonna call it a 3. But I would say it was anywhere from a 2 to a 4. And it definitely spent almost all of its time in the guest bathroom. And even in the guest bathroom had trouble filling up that tiny space. So some of that had to do with the wicks and the burn and the fact that this obviously experienced a lot of problems in the manufacturing process. And by the way, I did notice that on the website, someone has reviewed this candle and also mentioned that they had trouble getting one of their wicks to stay lit. This is a very odd problem for Kringle, and I will say that right off. Kringle's strengths, especially since their 100% soy takeover, their strengths have been burn quality, frankly. Very clean burn, very like, no troubleshooting needed, pretty much. No puny wicks, burning like a dream all the way down. I have had a lot of issues personally with fragrance quality, with fragrance consistency, and certainly with strength and throw. And I think those are all, for the most part, trade-offs of 100% soy. So I have been very transparent and frankly fairly vocal about not loving that. But we have not had to worry about this at all. And so this is very, very odd. But I think that I need to mention it because not only did it happen for this candle, and it has happened for this candle for other people, but also if you watched Connor Loves Candles this week, he has been saying that he's been having a ton of trouble with the new spring country candles, and they have burned pretty badly at the midway point as well, which is again extremely odd. But Kringle did kind of tweak their wax formula and maybe their wicks at the beginning of the year, I think in part to respond to the frustration over strength and throw and fragrance issues. But it looks as though other problems have been created. So I think that, first of all, I am not going to review, and I haven't been reviewing Kringle candles unless and until I can burn them all the way down to the bottom. And I think as reviewers, we need to be careful this year. Up to this point, I know that a lot of Kringle reviewers have been a lot more comfortable giving a review in like after a few burns or at the midway point, having full confidence that it would burn the rest of the way really well. I think we probably need to not make those assumptions this year because of a formula that has changed. So I personally would like to see more Kringle reviewers not review until they get to the end of the candle. And I know that that's hard because frankly, I think this is just too much candle to burn. Another thing I've been vocal about is if we're going to see one format go away, I actually think that the very tall ones are the ones that could go away. For most of us, that mid candle, the middle medium candle is about as much wax as I want to burn in a particular month or week or 2 weeks or whatever else it is. To get through one of these tall candles, you have to burn it every day for weeks. Weeks. I mean, religiously, you have to make an enormous commitment to it. And especially for those of us who burn a ton of candles on a regular basis, it's not something we can commit to. But I think as reviewers, we're going to need to, because this was not good. By the way, in another Facebook group, it was not Kringle, so the moderator solicited for fun was like, tell me what candle you're having trouble with this week. And I put this one, and I just posted the video, and I'm like, this one, Butterfly, it's just doing really bad. And somebody immediately chimed in and was like, did you contact customer service? And I was like, I did. I absolutely did. And I didn't ask for anything back. So, I suppose it's fine that I haven't heard back from them. But then it was kind of odd because within the hour, I got a response back from Kringle, and they were like, we're sorry about Butterfly. And they like reimbursed me my money. So like, I don't want to be cynical and be like, when you tweet the company, then you get a result. Maybe it was just coincidental that they finally got to like my email 2 weeks after that, and it just happened to be within an hour of me posting in another group about Butterfly. But the moral of the story is they did reimburse me my money on it, which I'm really grateful for, because I didn't even get to the halfway point. Between us, even if the candle had performed amazing in terms of the burn quality, the strength and throw was just so bad on it. And like I said, I don't know that it got under my skin. I don't know that I really loved it. I wouldn't repurchase it. And so in that sense, I don't know that I would have recommended it anyway, but certainly with these performance issues, I really think you're going to be playing Russian roulette if you try to buy one of these Butterfly candles. Especially with the limited edition reserve candles, I think there are going to be less opportunities for batch variations, because I think that they probably only have one pour or one batch or a limited number of them. If it was a long-standing candle, maybe just one pour was bad, but you would have good chances of another pour being fine, etc. With these limited ones, I don't know. I think this particular fragrance is just, something happened in the pouring process and it's not good. The other two burned absolutely fine, and they burned fine from the beginning. So it was really just Butterfly that had those major issues. And I can't recommend it for that reason, among many others. Graceful Fern, the blurb on this one is, embrace the serenity of nature's elegance with Graceful Fern, as dewy greens, delicate florals, and a soothing blend of sandalwood, tonka, and amber converge to create a fragrance that whispers the poetry of a peaceful forest retreat, which is kind of sweet. So here we not only have amber, or amber sands, but here we've got also sandalwood and tonka, which are very similar notes. And so you automatically know on paper that you're going to get a little bit of a warmer fragrance here. And in fact, you do. And when I'm going to read you the top, middle, and base notes, I mentioned this when I hauled it. The top notes and the base notes probably should be reversed, and I think it might probably just be a mistake on Kringle's part. The top notes are sandalwood, tonka, and amber, where you would probably expect to see them more in the bottom. Those are base notes. Mid notes are floral, jasmine, violet, and rose. And then base notes are dewy green, fresh ozone, sparkling water, and lemon. Again, you would expect to see those in the top notes. If it is not a mistake from Kringle, the one thing I can say is that with the sandalwood, the tonka, and the amber together, you have a much warmer base and a much warmer presence in this candle. And in fact, that is very obvious the minute that you smell it, that it's just warmer than this Butterfly one, for instance. And so if I had to defend the sandalwood, tonka, and amber in the top notes, that's how I would defend it, is that is actually a very forward element of this candle is the warmth, and the warmth of that perfumey and creamy sandalwood, tonka, and amber. This one is actually very similar to Butterfly in terms of the profile. So with both of these candles, you're getting a conceptual perfume kind of, that has aquatic elements and has some herbal elements and has some green botanical elements, basically. Okay? This one, though, is much more dewy and green than this one, which is more bitey and herbal. This one is much more like assertive, and I think actually a little thinner. And it seems thinner to me and more linear because I don't think it has that like sandalwood tonka. Like the sandalwood and tonka here is really filling out the amber in a way that gives it a little bit more roundness, I think, as a fragrance. It's still, and I said this when I hauled it, it's still kind of hitting though in that mid-range and is a very weak candle as well, both on cold and burned. So I don't know that there are enough layers in it for it to come across as a really fully fledged concept. For me, it's like the beginning of a concept. And frankly, Butterfly is a little that way as well. They both just seem a few important fragrance notes shy of something that is really special or that is really thought through. And in that sense, both of them seem like interesting beginnings of a unique conceptual, but in fact not the finished product. They seem a little rushed to me. This one is very dewy. It almost has kind of an aloe feel to it, and we're gonna get to the aloe when we get to green leaf. And the floral is much more obvious here in lieu of the herbal. So it says dewy green, which is totally correct. Like I said, it almost goes in an aloe kind of direction. It's a super aquatic green botanical. And then it does have like a floral element to it. The floral element, which is, I mean, it just says floral generic and then jasmine, violet, and rose. So jasmine is going to be your biggest hitter there. Yeah. And because violet is not a very strong or pronounced note necessarily. Rose can be, but rose also contributes usually like a mature kind of powdery element. And because this candle is so green and so wet, I'm thinking that the rose is really not a significant part of this. So you're kind of getting this like generic white floral, but it's being overwhelmed by the aquatic green element. So if this one had like the blue lotus in it, that would seem about right. It's a blue lotus kind of candle, yeah? Again, fern might not be the best marketing there, but at least it's within the realm of green botanicals. In terms of the sparkling water and the lemon, not getting a ton of it. There might be a little bit of lemon, but it's not a forward note, and it's, again, being overwhelmed by the aloe note there. And it's keeping it all in the mid-range as opposed to like a brighter, higher range. I like it. I think it's beautiful. And I think it's a little bit more smeller friendly than this one, which I think is just very acquired taste. You really have to love herbals, I think, and perhaps even off-putting, like clashing masculine kind of elements to really dig that butterfly, I think. Whereas Graceful Fern is much more mainline, for sure. It is kind of like grassy green aloe-ish though, for sure. And the floral element is just keeping it sweet enough. And then you've got the warmth of the amber, the sandalwood, and the tonka underneath it to kind of like fill it out. But again, it's not punching on probably enough levels. The problem with this one is the same one with Butterfly. The strength and throw on this was a 3, which means that it ranged between a 2 and a 4. And it spent most all of its time in the guest bathroom. But so happy to say that it did burn like a dream, and I burned it all the way down to the wick clips. So that was that. If anything, this one was even weaker, frankly, than Butterfly. Although it's kind of hard to tell because Butterfly was afflicted with so many burn problems that it was difficult to know whether it was the fragrance that was not coming across or it was the problem that it just wasn't burning high enough because of those technical or mechanical difficulties. But I would say Graceful Fern, it just doesn't have those like really piercing, punchy herbal notes to it. And in that sense, Butterfly did come across a little bit more aggressively, although still in the weak range. Folks, the upshot on both of these is I can't recommend either one of them. These candles are expensive. I mean, they're in the $34 range, and especially with Butterfly performing so badly as a burn, it just can't be recommended on really any level. But even Graceful Fern, I would say for both of them, I'm not going to tell you what to purchase or not purchase, obviously. And if you have like expendable income and just money is no concern at all, then God bless, you know. But for those of you who are like needing to be a little bit more thoughtful and intentional about the way that you spend your money, I think that I would only recommend these to folks that are really, really devoted and passionate about herbals, about aquatics, about botanicals, and don't even mind like a very weak performance because they really just want to experience those kinds of candles. For those of you out there, I can recommend them as fairly unique fragrances and fairly unique conceptuals that, like I said, don't get it twisted, are a little bit more perfumey than I expected, but still have a strong botanical presence to them. So I can recommend them, and I'm so happy that just to see Kringle do some unique stuff and some stuff that isn't just, you know, a very simple gourmand. I'm very happy with that. But on the level of performance, I can't recommend either one of them really. And also, and we're going to go to the next video here with Greenleaf. Greenleaf performed so well and is still within this particular genre that I just wouldn't mess around with these two. I wouldn't. If you want something like this, buy Greenleaf. So let's talk about Greenleaf next. I will definitely list these two down below. And God bless if you want to spring for it. But I just think that I want to be very honest and transparent about the issues that I see with these two. I don't regret purchasing them. I really don't. I mean, maybe Butterfly because it just had so many problems. I don't regret that though because I do appreciate that they're unique, that they're odd, frankly. And I do love botanicals, and I'm glad to have experienced them. But I would certainly not repurchase either one of them. And I think to recommend them to a general audience, I just can't even come close to that. So I would say that these really missed the mark, these two particular ones, although there's probably some potential there in the fragrance for both of them. But I'm very happy to say that Greenleaf was a winner. So stay tuned and catch me in that video.